Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday, the 25th of March. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. President Park Geun-hye tells world leaders at the Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague that ending North Korea's nuclear program should be the first step towards making a world without nuclear arms. North Korea says it'll take additional nuclear measures if the United States continues its current aggressive approach towards Pyongyang. Plus, Malaysia says flight MH370, missing for more than 2 weeks, is assumed to have crashed in the southern Indian Ocean with no chance anyone survived. We begin in The Hague, where President Park Geun-hye has addressed world leaders gathered for the opening ceremony of the Nuclear Security Summit. Focusing on nuclear security, President Park highlighted the threats posed by North Korea. Our presidential office correspondent Chae-sun filed this report from the Netherlands.
President Park Geun-hye has laid out a systematic plan to enhance nuclear security worldwide. In a 4-point proposal made during her opening remarks at the Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague, the president said the international community should take an integrated approach towards nuclear security, disarmament, and non-proliferation. She referred to Washington and Moscow's initiative that turned nuclear arms materials into nuclear fuel, saying it was a prime example of turning swords into plowshares. The Korean leader then said there's a need for regional cooperation on nuclear security, such as in Northeast Asia, where 23% of the world's nuclear power plants are in operation. President Park also talked about the need for countries to share technology and experiences to level the playing field. Lastly, she said more measures are required to prevent cyber terror attacks on nuclear power plants. President Park also made a point of commending international efforts to strengthen nuclear security. She mentioned countries voluntarily allowing the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect their nuclear material protection systems. She also voiced concern about North Korea's nuclear materials getting into the hands of terrorist organizations and nuclear safety.
지금 북한의 영변에는 많은 핵시설이 집중되어 있는데 한 건물에서 화재가 나면 체르노빌보다 더 심각한 핵 재앙으로 이어질 것이라는 지적입니다.
The South Korean leader used the opportunity to cast light on the dangers of North Korea's nuclear development program. She said a nuclear-free Korean peninsula should be the first step towards a world without nuclear arms. Chae-sun, ARIRANG News, The Hague.
And while that is all happening in The Hague, North Korea has vowed to take further nuclear measures if the United States continues its current aggressive approach towards Pyongyang. At a news conference in New York City on Monday, the North's deputy ambassador to the UN, Lee Dong-il, said North Korea was ready to take a number of steps to demonstrate the power of the regime's self-defensive nuclear deterrent. The envoy did not elaborate on what the additional measures might be, but said the North's next move will be based on Washington's attitude in the future. The North Korean official also took issue with the ongoing joint military drills between South Korea and the US, calling them an example of Washington's hostile policy. On the North's test firing of scores of short-range rockets over the past few weeks, the envoy said it was part of a routine self-defensive military exercise. Now, a new twist to the efforts to resolve Japan's wartime sexual slavery. A rare set of documents released by China adds more evidence that the enslavement of tens of thousands of Asian women and girls was institutionalized under a national law. Our Son Jung-in reports.
China's Jilin Provincial Archives has released a letter written by a Japanese citizen who lived in China in 1941. It says that some 20 Korean women were forced at the time to serve at a comfort station in the Japanese army compound stationed in northern China. A separate Japanese document written by the Japanese military police in Nanjing described 36 Korean women at a military brothel during World War II as special comfort women, which indicates that they were coerced into sexual servitude. These and 23 other documents were released by the Chinese Archives Administration through Korean media on Monday. Local experts say the set of rare evidence is more proof that Japan forcefully mobilized Korean females as comfort women under the 1938 National Mobilization Law. The Korean government has pressed Japan for decades to make a formal apology and provide compensation to the wartime victims, but Japan has refused. Historians say up to 200,000 women from Korea, China, and other Asian nations were coerced into sexual servitude at Japanese brothels during the war. 손정인, ARIRANG News.
South Korea and the United States are unlikely to agree on a date for transferring wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul within this year. Citing a South Korean government official, Seoul-based Yonhap News reports the two are likely to only settle on the conditions of the transfer by the end of the year. It was widely expected the two allies would set the date at this year's high-level bilateral military talks that are set for October. The transfer was supposed to take place all the way back in 2012, but in light of a series of North Korean provocations, it was postponed to 2015 upon South Korea's request in 2010. Last year, Seoul once again asked Washington to delay the transfer date, citing growing nuclear threats from North Korea. Now, if all goes according to plan, South Korea will put pen to paper on a deal to purchase 40 F-35A fighter jets from Washington later this year. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin has more on the special sales process, which could save the Korean government hundreds of millions of dollars.
Korea has announced plans to buy 40 F-35A fifth-generation fighter jets from Lockheed Martin later this year. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration said Monday that will go through the U.S. government's foreign military sales process and complete negotiations with Washington over prices and conditions in the third quarter. The FMS process gives a foreign country the ability to pay the amount specified set by the U.S. government at the time of delivery, not when the contract is signed. Korea's total budget for the fighter jet project is approximately 7.4 trillion won, or roughly $6.8 billion US dollars. A recent assessment by Lockheed Martin suggested that the price for one F-35A could drop to $80 million by 2019, when production is in full swing. It said that could eventually mean lower prices for international buyers, including Korea. The DAPA said it will monitor the development of the F-35, which has not been tested on the battlefield yet, and whether it fits with all of Korea's military requirements. With an eye on North Korea, the DAPA also approved a plan to purchase an unspecified number of RQ-4 Global Hawk unmanned aerial surveillance vehicles through FMS. The high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicle can operate in all-weather conditions and distinguish an object as small as 0.3 meters in size, while carrying 1,400 kilograms of internal payload. Experts say the state-of-the-art spy plane fits well with South Korea's missile defense system called the Kill Chain, which is designed to detect impending missile attacks and launch preemptive strikes. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
Said that a team of South Korean...
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. After more than 2 weeks of hoping, on Monday, all hope was dashed. The relatives of the missing passengers of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 have been told that the ill-fated flight came down somewhere in the remote southern Indian Ocean with no chance anyone survived. Shin Se-min reports.
17 days of pent-up despair and rage exploded in a Beijing hotel conference room on Monday as relatives of the Chinese passengers on board Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 were given the news many feared, but they didn't want to believe.
I want to tell the journalists, the information they just sent, it is not true.
In a damning statement given to the media, the families accuse Malaysia Airlines and the Malaysian government and military of being, quote, the real executioners who killed the missing jet passengers. They said the shameless behavior misguided and delayed rescue actions, wasting a large quantity of human resources and materials and lost valuable time for the rescue effort. The angry reaction came after Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak told the world's media Monday that the plane is assumed to have crashed more than 2,000 kilometers west of Australian city of Perth with no chance anyone survived.
This is a remote location, far from any possible landing sites. It is therefore with deep sadness and regret that I must inform you that according to this new data, flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
The announcement was based on fresh satellite analysis from Britain, which had employed a type of analysis never before used in an investigation of this sort. Australia says true objects have been spotted and that a naval vessel hoped to recover them soon. The latest in a line of leads stemmed from a French satellite image that showed possible debris in the remote sea southwest of Australia. Despite an extensive multinational search for the missing plane, no wreckage has been retrieved. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Korea is pushing to wrap up the second round of negotiations on joining the US-led Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, as it's more commonly known. An official from Seoul's Trade Ministry says Korea plans to round off the deal next month after holding a series of two-way meetings with participating countries. The TPP is an effort by the US to increase its economic presence in the Asia-Pacific region. Negotiations for the trade deal involve 12 countries at the present time. The Korean government finished its first round of consultations with the TPP nations earlier this month after first expressing its interest to join late last year. Now, Korea is now the world's second largest semiconductor supplier, outpacing Japan's market share for the first time since Samsung Electronics began producing semiconductors back in the 1980s. Citing US market research firm IHS Technology, the Trade Ministry said Korea's global market share in the semiconductor industry rose 1.5 percentage points year over year to top 16% in 2013. The United States retained the #1 position, dominating more than half of the world's market share. Japan's dropped nearly 4 percentage points to settle at less than 14%. However, industry analysts say Korea's semiconductor market still relies too heavily on memory chips. They say Korea should focus more on enhancing logic chip technology, which is used to control electronic devices. Now, the rise on the number of smartphones in Korea has given rise to concerns about addiction, and teens run the greatest risk. A study on internet and smartphone addiction conducted by the Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning shows around a quarter of Korean teenagers were at risk of smartphone addiction last year. That's a jump of around 7 percentage points from 2012. For the overall population, the risk of smartphone addiction rose slightly by 0.7 percentage points to just under 12%. The government instituted new measures this year to lower addiction rates, which include compulsory prevention education for elementary, middle and high school students. Now, on the culture front, the Korean wave washed ashore in China this past weekend. A K-pop concert co-hosted by ARIRANG TV in Shanghai on Saturday featured some of the industry's hottest acts and drew thousands of fans from all over China. And as our Yulian reports, this concert is just the first of many to come.
K-pop fans in China filled this 18,000-seat stadium on Saturday for the Simply K-pop Tour 2014 in Shanghai. The concert was organized by ARIRANG TV, Korea's only global television network, and Chinese satellite broadcaster Dragon TV, which reaches 1 billion viewers in China.
I prepared flowers for G-Dragon to cheer him up for the concert. I've been his fan for 6 years, and I hope he will visit China more often.
Some die-hard fans didn't even give a second thought to traveling by car over 10 hours to the venue.
I drove all the way from Shandong. I've been waiting for 2 months for this concert.
I'm a big fan of Kpop, so I decided to wear this helmet to the concert.
This is just a small glimpse into the K-pop craze that's been rapidly expanding in China in recent years, and fans didn't miss out on the chance to see their favorite acts in person. A total of 12 artists, including Big Bang's G-Dragon and Taeyang, are all here at the Mercedes-Benz Arena for the spectacular 3-hour concert. And this concert is the first of many more to come. Along with ARIRANG TV and Dragon TV, the concert was hosted by entertainment management agencies Intercrew based in Korea and JY Entertainment in China. The 4 groups signed a memorandum of understanding ahead of the concert, agreeing to promote more cultural exchanges between China and Korea. That includes more concerts and even television programs.
I'm excited to work with Korea's ARIRANG TV, and I hope to deepen our relationship through more projects together in the future.
The concert will be broadcast on ARIRANG TV to over 100 million households around the world on April 11th and 18th. Yurian, ARIRANG News, Shanghai.
Now, for a look at some of the other international headlines we're following at this hour, we're going to turn it over to our Eunice Kim, who's standing by at the news centre. Good morning to you, Eunice. Now, the group of 7 nations have decided to hold their summit this year without Russia. Fill us in.
Hi, Mark. Indeed, the crisis in Ukraine is casting a shadow over the nuclear security summit ongoing in The Hague as the leaders of the G7, that's the United States, the 4 major European economies of Germany, France, Britain, and Italy, as well as Japan and Canada, announced they would withdraw from the G8 meetings planned in Sochi and hold their own summit this year in Brussels. They condemned what they called, quote, Russia's illegal attempt to annex Crimea in contravention to international law and promised to work together to cut their dependence on Russian oil and gas. And in response, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov shrugged off the snub as, quote, no great tragedy. Meanwhile, back on the Black Sea Peninsula, Kiev has ordered its remaining troops and their families out of Crimea in a move effectively seen as a white flag to Russian forces. Russian forces most recently seized a Ukrainian Marine base and a landing ship there. Meanwhile, ahead of the nuclear security summit, Japan announced it will hand over to the United States hundreds of kilograms of nuclear material that could be used to create bombs. This includes all highly enriched uranium and separated plutonium, which can serve as the fissile material for a nuclear bomb's core. The joint agreement is in line with global efforts to minimize stocks of the potentially dangerous materials and outline plans for the U.S., once received, to convert them into less sensitive forms. 529 defendants received the death sentence in an Egyptian court Monday on charges that they murdered a policeman and attacked people and property, among others. They are among some 1,200 supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood on trial. This follows riots that took place during sit-ins in Cairo supporting President Mohamed Morsi, who was ousted in July last year. The defendants are expected to appeal. And over in Washington state, United States, search crews say they have found more bodies among the rubble of the weekend's massive mudslide, bringing the death toll there to 14. The number of missing persons have also jumped to 108 from the initially reported 18. That's more than half of the town of Oso, which has a population of 180. County Emergency Management Director John Pennington said the figure could fall as some missing person reports could have overlapped.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in the KBO, where the 2014 KBO Media Day and Fan Fest took place at Ewha Women's University. Once all the 300 fans got a chance to meet and greet the 18 players who came out to the event, it was time for everyone to find out what to expect from the 9 teams for the 2014 season. And just like everyone expected, many managers had a hard time choosing which team is the favorite to win the title going into the new season. But most of them did agree that the NC Dinos are the dark horse this season and might surprise everyone this year. And shifting over to short track, where according to several Russian newspapers, Victor An, aka An Hyun-soo's younger brother, might also receive Russian citizenship to compete. Now, in an interview with An's father, he stated that his youngest son, An Hyun-jun, who's 14 years old, might also opt to gain Russian citizenship in order to compete like his older brother. He added that if the Korea Skating Union prevents him from competing in Korea, he'll make sure that he'll train in Russia and compete for Russia just like Victor An. Meanwhile, fans in Korea are now afraid that the feud between the An family and the KSU might affect Korean short track in the future as well. Now, in the past few years, Korean sports have been rocked by different scandals, whether it be match fixing or sexual harassment. Now, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism will make sure to prevent this by offering a reward to the whistleblowers. The ministry announced that anyone who reports illegal activities related to sports being done in the nation will receive a reward ranging from 1 million to 3 million won, or roughly $928 to $2,785, judging by the level of seriousness. This includes match fixing, illegal gambling, assault, and sexual harassment. The ministry hopes that the call center will prevent more illegal activities from happening once again. And moving over to the LPGA, where Park In-bi went into the final round of the LPGA Founders Cup, hoping to win her first LPGA title of the season. And while she didn't, she still finished high enough to hold on to her #1 ranking. The #1 LPGA golfer struggled a bit on the third day, but still managed to finish at 16 under par, good for 10th overall. And while Suzanne Pedersen finished 5 strokes behind her at 29th overall, Park In-bi will hold on to her #1 ranking for another week. Meanwhile, Kerry Webb, who shot a 63 on the final day, finished first at 19 under par, claiming her $225,000 prize. And finishing things off in the KBO with Game 2 of the best-of-5 semifinals between the LG Sakers and KT Sonic Boom. And right from the start, LG takes a slim 23-20 lead after the first quarter before heading into halftime with a 41-34 lead. And while KT's Ira Clark puts up game-high 23 points and 14 rebounds, LG never loses the lead and hangs on to take a 2-0 series lead with a 71-61 win. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, it's been raining in Jeju since early this morning, and that rain is spreading to other regions. So 20 to 80 millimeters of rain is expected in Jeju, and 5 to 40 millimeters of rain is expected for the rest of the country into tomorrow. So the sun will be hiding behind the clouds today, so expect to see the overcast skies in most areas. So some regions can expect to see a glimpse of sunshine during the day. And temperature-wise, compared to yesterday, it will feel milder in the upper parts of the peninsula, but cooler down south due to clouds coverage and showers. And it looks like this round of rain will actually add warmth to the air, because after the rain, temperatures will soar to 20s here in the capital, feeling like more like early May or early summer-like temperatures, with readings staying on the warm side. So do keep that in mind, and here are the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 18. Daegu and Gwangju will top out at 19 and 16 respectively, while Busan should get up to 17. For other regions, it looks like down on Jeju and Dokdo will peak to 17. Daejeon will climb up to 18, while the top temperature on Mount Kumgang will be at 11. Well, that's all for now, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Well, that's all for now. We'll be back at noon Korea time for another newscast. In the meantime, you can always catch up with what's been happening on our website, arirang.co.kr/news.